Welcome, students. Today we are going to be having an Infosys Tech Talk. We're going to get started in just a minute or so. Want to make sure that everyone has a chance to sign on and get settled. All right, so it's a little bit after 12 p.m. and I'd love for us to get started. My name is Myra Kravorik. Thanks, students, for attending our Infosys Tech Talk this afternoon. We're joined today with three really cool panelists that we're excited to introduce to you all in a moment. Today's conversation is really learning about their different career paths, professional experiences, and academic opportunities. And so really it's an opportunity for you all to ask any questions that you might have. This session is what you make it. So we highly, highly encourage you to ask questions in the chat box, ask to be unmuted, however you like to engage today. So with that said, just some quick ground rules. If you're new to some of our sessions, we do mute you just automatically upon entry. This is just to help ensure that there's no distracting background noises. But with that said, we do encourage you to utilize the chat box or unmute yourself when you'd like to ask any questions or share any perspectives that you might have. And if you do choose to use video, which we highly encourage, just be mindful of everything happening in the background. We really look forward to today's conversation and hearing what you all have to say. Another housekeeping item is that we do record all of our sessions. This is just so we can share what happens here today with other students who weren't able to make it. And so that means that your name or image may be included in some of these communications. So if you'd like, to be removed from any social media or promotional posts, if you don't feel comfortable with any of those aspects, definitely contact the email that you see on the screen. So just to quickly reintroduce myself, my name is Myra Kravorik. I am a program manager with Pencil. I help to facilitate these lovely conversations with our panelists throughout the school year. You might have seen me at other sessions where we also teach college and career readiness workshops on financial literacy, professional communication, elevator pitch, and networking. If you're interested in attending any other Pencil sessions, definitely let us know in the chat box. And you can let specifically Marina Kornofsky know, who is our moderator for this session. She's going to be working in the background to address any troubleshooting issues if we have any. She's also a program manager at Pencil with me. Marina, if you want to say a quick hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Marina. All right. So like I said, we're joined today with three really interesting panelists representing Infosys. So first want to turn it to them for just a quick introduction, and then later on we're going to learn a little bit more about their backgrounds. So Vikas, if you want to start us off.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to you for giving us this opportunity. I'm really excited to talk to this team. Well, by way of introduction, I am Regional Practice Leader for Infosys. I manage primarily digital practice at Infosys. I've been with the organization for last 14 years or so. Bring over 2 decades of experience, have had a journey across multiple industries, have made quite a few changes in my career as well. I started with automotive. I went on to do some design, then transitioned into IT, did some consulting, and today I am here. I grew up in India, in the foothills of Himalayas. Nowadays I call Ohio as my home. And of course, I'm looking forward to action today. Thank you.
Thanks, Vikas. Definitely interested in learning more about all of the different experiences you've had on your career trajectory later on. Kevin, going to pass it to you right now for a quick introduction. Welcome to the student.
Yeah, thanks, Maya. So my name is Kevin Zoll. I'm a technology analyst at Infosys. I've been with Infosys since August 2018, so around 3 years. And I'm currently working with some web applications at a manufacturing client. I started off in software development, and now I'm kind of um, working in management and still trying to keep the focus on technology and software development.
Very nice. Thanks so much, Kevin. And Deborah, if you want to say a quick hello.
Hi, everybody. My name is Deborah Unegbu. I have been with Infosys for about 2 years. I'm a associate analyst here, associate analyst here. A little bit about my background. I actually grew up in New York. I grew up in Manhattan. I went to Frederick Douglass Academy, if anyone is there, FDA. And yeah, my journey has led me to Infosys so far. I love it here, and I'm excited to talk about technology.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Deborah. All right, so students, we want to know who's joining us this afternoon. So in the chat box right now, let us know your name, and if you're feeling it, maybe a career field that you're interested in. It's okay if it's tech related or not tech related. We just want to learn more about what you all are interested in. So I'll give you all about 15 seconds to do that. Open up that chat icon. Let us know your name and a career field that you're interested in. So we have cybersecurity, computer engineering, data security, IT work, digital forensics, cybersecurity. This is really great to see that we have some students joining us today that are interested in the work that Infosys covers. And it's okay if you're not, if you're undecided or unsure. Today's conversation is just really to help inform you about all of the options that are out there. And as you've already heard from some of our panelists, you don't necessarily need to start out in the field that you end up in. So really excited to kind of dive a little bit deeper into all of that. Thanks so much for our students for putting that in the chat box. We also want to make sure that we're taking attendance here. So if you're not comfortable telling us what you are interested in, definitely at least let us know your name and what school you attend. All right, so with that said, gonna move us forward. Want to hear a little bit more from Vikas about Infosys. If you can just give the students just a general overview of the company. I know that it is a very large company with a lot of different services, but hoping that you can kind of give us a quick snapshot.
Sure, thank you. So as I said, I've been with Infosys for almost 14 years. Infosys is a relatively young organization. We are just 40 years old, almost 40 years in existence. Infosys is a global company involved in digital consulting and end-to-end services for our clients. We have presence across 50 countries. And we had a very modest start. Infosys started with just $250. That was the incubation with which Infosys actually started. And if we look back today, Infosys today is $13 billion company, presence across all the continents. We are 250,000 consultants worldwide. So that's something which speaks about the growth that we have had over the last 4 decades. We are into IT, so which means most of our workforce is what we can classify as knowledge workers. And thanks to the vision of our founders, I think there has been a strong belief in continuous learning. There has been a lot of effort in terms of how we want to invest in everybody who joins the firm. And as our founder member used to say that every evening, all of our assets actually walk out of the door. And then only we hope and pray that we give them an environment that they're excited to come back the next day. So that's the kind of industry we are in. And IT, as you all know, has been growing leaps and bounds. And last year, while we had a lot of challenges due to COVID, I think this is one of the industries which not just survived, but actually thrived in this environment. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about Infosys. We are into different categories of work, but broadly, I could tell you that we operate on almost all the dimensions of technology. So whether it is development work, whether it is testing, whether it is consultative activities, whether it's program management, whether it's transformation from end to end, mobile apps, cybersecurity. So we have presence in almost all dimensions of technology. I'm sure we will talk a lot more as we take a deeper dive. I'll leave you with this thought broadly about Infosys to start with.
Thanks so much, Vikas. So yes, students, as you heard, Infosys, has rapidly grown over the last 4 decades, which I think is a testament to the IT world and, how sustainable that type of career is, especially with the, pandemic that is currently, sweeping the world. This company, was able to survive those ages. And so I think as you're having the conversations today about, the everyday realities of working in tech, it's also important to look at the bigger picture and look at, growth opportunities. So really excited to learn a little bit more about that. And then just a quick note, as you see on the slide, students, Infosys Foundation USA, that was established in 2015. And this is more of the philanthropic arm of Infosys. So they have a mission of expanding computer science and maker education to kindergarten to 12th grade students and teachers across the nation, specifically among underrepresented communities. So the foundation is really the main motivator in this conversation, and they've supported a lot of the work, and they're introducing these tech talks to you all. So just want to give them a quick shout out for their innovative campaigns to really raise awareness about bridging the digital divide. So with that said, want to move us forward to hearing more about the panelists and their background. So Vikas, using some of the bullet points on the screen, if you can give us more of an in-depth introduction. I know you've already covered some of the points here, but would love for you to just restate it for our students.
Sure, would love to do that. So just taking a bit of deeper dive, as I said, I am the regional practice head for digital services. So in my current role, I'm responsible for growth of our digital services, which encompasses of everything to do with digital interactions, marketing, commerce. So if I were to relate it for you, think of doing transactions on Amazon, right? Everything you start doing from interacting with the screens, looking at the products, doing comparisons, doing the checkout, all that is part of digital commerce. And of course, you get a lot of recommendations that come through if you bought some X item or if you looked up for some data, you get some relevant ads coming through to you. That's something which is part of digital marketing. And then you can actually look at it using your mobile screens. You can interact on laptops, notebooks. That's what happens as part of digital interactions. So it's not just the mobile apps, but it could be more to do with voice communication. It could be things through command line interface. So all kind of interactions that you're looking at. More futuristically, we are looking at things like machine learning. We are looking at growing cybersecurity, blockchain. Those are the different aspects of technologies where my team works on. I have a team of around 600 people in US. I'm responsible for both business acquisition, delivery, and of course, acquisition of talent and managing their deployment. As I said, I grew up in foothills of Himalayas. Was a beautiful time for me. I think kind of down the road in my career now. So I started my career with my engineering in mechanical. And as a mechanical engineer, I was always enthused with automotive, and I wanted to be in that industry. So I started with a company called Tata Motors, which is in India, and it has made acquisitions of, for example, Range Rover is a product which belongs to them. I went on to Mercedes-Benz in Germany, worked for them in Germany for a few years. From there, I got introduced into computer-aided design and manufacturing, and that was my transition to move on to IT to some extent. I was quite excited about how you do 3D modeling, analysis, and that's what got me into computers. As part of organization, I think I started to grow in terms of looking at different aspects of organization, new product introduction, then supply chain, manufacturing, sales, marketing. That's what gave me the breadth. And I should say that was also my leap into IT. Infosys was one of the companies which used to provide us IT services. That was also the time I relocated back to India for a short duration to open up a new center for Mercedes in India. And that's where I made my transition to Infosys. With Infosys, I've worked for various organizations. I did work for Airbus in UK. I worked for Nike in Oregon. I have been all across US with different industry verticals. I have clients mostly in Northeast, Midwest, and Southeast regions currently.
And Vikas, where did you attend university? What is your alma mater?
Yeah, so I have had, I think, incremental studies for myself. I did my mechanical engineering from India. Mm-hmm. It was a college, Punjab Engineering College. That's the university from where I graduated in mechanical engineering. After 5 years of work, I went in to do my MBA. Mm-hmm. And I did my MBA from Bangalore, which is Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Mm-hmm. And since then, I think I've been learning all the while. That's the interesting part of this industry. Most recently, I have been through executive programs with Cornell University, and I continue to learn even today. In terms of dream jobs, I think my dream job is where I believe I'm not just working to grow the revenue, but also has a purpose to make some social contribution. I think I'm on the way to it, somewhere midway, probably still there to reach. So that's pretty much about me.
Thanks, Vikas. Definitely going to dive a little bit deeper into some of your background and hear more about those different experiences you've had. But first, want to give Kevin an opportunity to, using the bullet points on the slide, just give us a more in-depth introduction.
Sure. So my current role at Infosys right now is a technology analyst. Kind of what I do day to day is interacting both with software developers and the business side of things to make sure they're communicating and the requirements and the points that the business wants to get across are made in the software. So when I started at Infosys, I didn't really understand that that was such a large part of software development, but really gathering those requirements and communication and turning those verbal requirements into something that can be developed in software is a really large part of the industry that I think there's a lot of potential for people to grow in. Especially people who are comfortable communicating with different types of people. And it's something that you can really grow in. So my hometown is Muncie, Indiana. And also my alma mater is Ball State University, which is in Muncie, Indiana. I actually started working as an archaeologist at my family business while I was going to college. And I worked there while I was going to college, and my major was computer information systems, which is in the School of Business. So I have a kind of combination of business training and also the computer science fundamentals to kind of have a nice combination of those two, which is how it's kind of made an easy transition for me to find a role in between sort of software development and business leaders. And then as far as my dream job, I always loved computers. So even when I was in middle school and high school, that was something that I was targeting. But like I said, my first job was actually as an archaeologist, doing field surveys and things like that for the family business. So as I learned about computers and business in college, I was still kind of working in this completely separate industry. But at the same time, some of the communication skills and attention to detail and report writing and things that I learned in archaeology has transferred over. So I think for the students, how that applies to them a lot is really whatever you're doing, whether you think it will or not, it will have an effect on what you can do in the future. So I think it's always a good idea to do your best job, even if you think, your current job won't have an effect on what your dream job is. You might be surprised to find, in 10 years that it actually does.
Thanks, Kevin, for that insight. Really cool that you were working in archaeology for a little bit. That's the first that we've had that in a career panel. And students definitely, as we're having, these conversations, ask any questions that you might have. Deborah, wanted to give you some room to give an introduction as well.
Okay, yes, I'm Deborah again. My current role right now in Infosys is an associate analyst. So right now I actually work with a manufacturing company, and I'm in the Oracle. So pretty much day to day, we kind of, as Kevin said, he's part of the business requirement and software development side, and I'm kind of the side where we do a lot of the implementation. So it's kind of like the background stuff. I think one of the things I like about Infosys is the flexibility, as well as they also push a lot of self-learning. And I think that's one of the things that has helped me thrive, with Infosys so far. Like I said, my hometown, I'm from the Bronx. I was born in the Bronx, New Yorker. And I'm very proud of that. No matter where I go, I tell everyone I'm from New York. And that's really where my technology path started. I had a really passionate calculus teacher in FDA, and he kind of encouraged me to apply to engineering school. So that led me to my alma mater, which is Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. And that's really kind of where my whole career path in technology engineering began. I studied engineering management. So yeah, that's completely different from what I do now, but I feel like that was a very good foundation for me. My dream job initially was to play for Beyonce. I play keyboard, so I told my parents I wanted to play for Beyonce. But as a child of immigrant parents, becoming a musician is not really a career, so they kind of strayed me to either become an engineer or doctor, and I decided to go with engineering, but eventually it has evolved into the IT technology role. So that's a little bit of me.
Awesome. Awesome. Really cool backgrounds from all three of our panelists. We're going to move into the main portion of the Q&A right now. So I'm going to take my screen down, and Marina is going to help spotlight some of our videos for us. But students, I have some questions that I already have drafted up for our panelists, but as always, you can ask any questions that you might have. Deborah, I want to stick with you. If you can tell us a little bit more about really that transition from when you were in Stevens, which I think is in Hoboken, just across the river, being in Hoboken, being at Stevens, and then, what it was like to really capitalize on those college experiences and start positioning yourself for a career in tech.
Right. I think Stevens was such a phenomenon. I mean, I still want to go back to Stevens to actually get a different degree because it was such a phenomenal foundation. I think one of the things, especially coming from New York City, there was a bit of, I would say, not really a culture shock, but a shock in terms of some of the opportunities that other students were privy to. And I think that I did not take that as intimidating. I actually took it as an opportunity to learn. So I think that's one of the things that helped me position myself for a career, a different career path, is the ability to kind of mingle and network with other students of different backgrounds. And they kind of helped me, in different areas. And I also helped them, with what I brought to the table. So I think the first thing is knowing that you always bring something to the table, no matter what your background. But then while at Stevens, I had a lot of computer science majors as friends. I saw that they had, when they were graduating, I saw that their career path had a little bit more flexibility in terms of, having remote work, or in terms of, having different type of roles that could be like full career roles or like contract roles. And a contract role is just a role where it's like a month-to-month project. And depending on your lifestyle, those kind of roles might look a little bit more attractive. So because I knew the kind of life I wanted, it started to open me up to start learning different types of technologies. So in school, I started learning C++ as a base programming language. But that, I think choosing to do that as an elective started to open me up into the tech world. So that's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's great. No, that's great. I think a main takeaway that I got from that is, when you're in college, just because you're not necessarily in the major that's going to push you into the field that you end up in, you're really utilizing all of the networking opportunities that, the campus environment provides. You are, our students who are going to be entering college, you're allowed to take electives. You're allowed to explore, other majors and other types of classes. And so the fact that you're able to be an engineering student, but also take, classes to teach you C++ is a great way to just further develop your skill set. So I think it's really great for our students to hear. Kevin, I'm going to turn it to you. You talked a lot about the marriage between the tech world and the business world and how you're really kind of in between. And, a lot of our students, I'm sure, are interested in, kind of that intersection of the two. So if you could talk a little bit more about, the decision that you made to, be in a major that allowed you to have that skill set, but also if you have any insights for some of our students on what they can be doing when they're at that phase.
Sure. So I think it kind of came naturally to me to go into the School of Business because I wanted to be focused on technology, because like Deborah said, careers in technology are really flexible and they're growing. You can think about it, and I mean, basically every industry now has a technological component. So even as other industries grow, there's sectors within them that consist of technology that are going to be growing also. So I wanted to do something related to technology, but I wasn't necessarily sure that I wanted to pursue software development. So I chose computer information systems, which is kind of it's the technology major within the College of Business. So that allowed me to get a foundation in business while also staying technical. And it also allowed me to kind of use some of my, I guess, natural communication skills that I built through my other career to kind of find a niche in technology that I didn't know necessarily existed. Sometimes people who are focused on technical programming are, very focused on the task at hand and getting, a specific thing done. And there's sometimes a gap between that and communication in real world problems where you can solve the business issue at hand. So like I said before, in every technology or every business area, there's a technological component now because technology is becoming an increasingly large part of our lives. So that skill or talent, or even just having the amount of people, someone that can focus on translating the real world problem into the requirements or the assignment, if you could say, to allow technology to solve that problem is an area that I think is going to continue to grow. So within that, I have been focused in that area, but I also want to stay technical. So as I've been working with Infosys, something that has gained interest that I had before, but it's grown, is just software development in general. So as I've seen some of these business problems, like real life problems that you could talk about in a conversation solved by software, it's made me realize that being able to create software programs and being fluent in, I mean, there's so many languages now, is kind of like having a superpower. So you could think of it like being able to build a house, is a skill that has been around, or construction, being able to build buildings is something that, you can see it's a tangible result. You can, you go and buy the materials, you put the house together and you can see it, and, businesses live in it, or a person lives in it. And software is sort of like that, but it's even cooler to me because all of the materials that you would have to go to the store and buy, like the wood and nails and everything, they're actually, if you're a software developer, those are thoughts in your mind, and there's no material cost. So by kind of using that to solve the problem, you're creating something of value from basically just your thoughts, which are free. So that's something that I've personally discovered while I've worked at Infosys that has made me motivated to become a more proficient software developer, because I think the value that you can get from that is limited only by your own imagination.
Really interesting metaphor for our students. And just because we're on the topic, and I think it's worthwhile for, young people to know who are interested in, a comp sci role. I think there's almost like an intimidation factor that when you are, looking to get hired by a big tech company, you need to know like 6 or 7 coding languages. Could you maybe just share what your experience has been with that? What, students can begin to do now to really develop that skill set? Do they need to know every single coding language?
Yeah, so like I said, I started actually in the School of Business, so I had, a pretty limited, in comparison to someone who's a computer science major, I had a really limited kind of hands-on keyboard programming background when I joined Infosys. So I would say definitely don't let that be an intimidating factor. Actually, that was one of the things, and especially the math requirements to get into some of the computer science major classes, actually pushed me towards my major, which was computer information systems. And I found through, I guess through my time at Infosys, that you shouldn't be intimidated by it, because while some of the classes might have math backgrounds, the actual application of things isn't going to be solving math questions. It is true that programming is based in math, but what I've discovered is when I apply real world situations and kind of a background to it, the logic of it comes more natural than when I think of it as a purely math situation. So if I could give myself advice going back, it would definitely be, don't be intimidated by some of the math backgrounds or math requirements for certain classes, and really also don't let that be a barrier. If that's something that you don't want to do, there's no requirement. And also, a lot of times you can do a computer science major, you can choose to do a Bachelor of Arts, which will reduce some of the math requirements. And I don't want to get too technical, but really just don't let something like that limit you. There's a lot of need in technology in general for a lot of different backgrounds and skill sets. So pretty much any type of whatever natural skill you have, or whatever sort of work that you're naturally predisposed to doing, there's going to be a requirement in the technology field for you, because like I said, it's growing in every industry. Like in the medical industry, there's a huge technological component that's growing, that's software development, communication, support, networking. So really the only limit is yourself. And I would say don't let something like being intimidated by a certain course prevent you from pursuing what you want to do. Yeah, just find your niche is what I would say. There's space for everyone.
Thanks, Kevin. Vika, it's going to turn it to you now. Earlier, you were saying that you manage a team of over 600 people. Not only are you, required to really keep up with the ever-changing landscape in IT, but you also, play a heavy role in talent acquisition. And so for our students who are interested in getting involved in IT, maybe you can share some of the characteristics, some of the qualities that you look for in teammates when you are, hiring someone. What is something that our students can begin working on now?
Great question, and I think thanks to Kevin and Deborah. They already did set up the stage for this. So as you all heard, right, formal education is not a barrier. It's good to have. So if we start looking at the world, I think there's a talent which is naturally, inherently with you. And there is a part which you can polish, you can shine by learning, right? And ongoing learning obviously helps you to create a career for yourself. So when we are looking at different dimensions, I think the most important things which you are looking at is, first is, do you have more of logical thinking, good communication skills? Are you a person who is willing to learn? So it's more of the softer aspects which come at the forefront of making a selection for anybody joining the firm. The most important part there is your ability to be curious about things, your ability to learn, and your ability to commit and work hard. If those are the characteristics which define you, believe me, you can learn anything and everything, right? Now, the education, of course, stands behind you. It's a kind of a, I would say, promissory note behind you saying, yes, this person has done hard work and has achieved something, so why don't you look at this person, right? And as I think Kevin was pointing out, there are multiple roles, different aspects to technology. Every industry, right? And he rightly said that every industry today is a digital industry. In fact, in terms of careers, what we have today is nothing that existed 10 years ago in my own career. So we did not have anything, for example, app development 10 years ago. That field did not exist. There were no mobile apps whatsoever, right? And today when we talk about, it's one of the largest growing fields for us. If you look at cryptography, which I think a lot of you did mention, data security, cyber security. Now, if you wanted to get into cyber security and be part of cryptography kind of things, then of course you need to have your major in mathematics. You would need to appreciate some of the complex algorithms that can go in. But if you are looking to take a career, let's say, in application development or do consulting, right? Then you may want to understand our industry. You may want to understand what are the interdependencies between various things that any enterprise does. And that could come from all of your experience. And it could be your experience working in a store where you understand how the demand and supply works, where you understand how a warehouse is managed, where you understand how things are shipped, how to interact with the customer who walks in. So all those aspects are equally important and they contribute to what you do in IT industry as well. But now looking for people whom we typically go after, very interestingly, Infosys has opened its door for people right from high school to the STEM graduates and of course the postgraduates which come through. And there is of course preparatory time depending upon what skill you bring. So if you were to come out of high school and still want to take up a career in IT, Infosys does provide opportunities where you can actually start doing your initial apprenticeship with the organization, where you undergo training. And this training is on various technical courses. It could be training in Java, it could be training on testing, it could be on automation, it could be writing some small scripts. So those kind of initial trainings build you up for what you can start doing with yourself. And as you advance, so if somebody was to come with, let us say, STEM background, that person is better positioned, of course. And at that stage, you would be directly looking at building maybe your abilities in terms of learning .NET, Oracle, SAP, Salesforce. These are various packages which apply into different dimensions like customer relationship management or supply chain or financials. or you could be learning web development, what Kevin does, which is the front-end development for portals, websites that you see, their enablement on, of course, mobile devices. And then if you came with all those backgrounds, you could also aspire to be somebody who does deep algorithms for cyber technology, where you could manage dashboards, where you could be looking at preventing hacks, where you could be looking at building products. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And for the people who intend to have a career even further, going in for their post-graduations and maybe doctorates, there's enough opportunity there as well. We have a consulting arm, which actually works with CXOs in any organization. They help define the future. So that's the area where we actually look at futuristic products. We start doing a lot of work in terms of coming out with different not point of views, but also doing prototype development, right? Which may be for solutions which do not exist today. They could be, for example, marrying what voice technology or voice recognition can do in terms of interactions. What would be the future type of interactions? Would those be gestures? Would those be voice combination with gestures? Would those be virtual reality? So you could look to expand into any of those areas as well.
Mhm.
So there's a whole 9 yards, but as I think Kevin mentioned it very right, it's about you, about your dream, where you want aspire to be.
Mhm.
And only thing that would limit you is you yourself, nothing else. I hope I answered you.
Yes, you did. You more than answered it. I think, for our students on the line, what we're hearing is that there's a lot of entry points to getting involved with Infosys, whether you are, just finishing up high school or graduating, or you are later in your career and you want to make a change. I know that Infosys has a pretty robust training program that typically lasts around 3 months, where you are all housed together with other trainees, and it's a pretty robust process to ensure that you are well equipped for your position. And I think that's important to note, students. When you get hired, it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to have all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the qualifications. Companies like Infosys are really valuing more of that development phase, where they're really fostering that knowledge for you. And so I think, Vikas, you touched on that a little bit about, there's ways for you to really have continuous learning within your role. And then just another quick note, students, we've had a few of these tech talks and it's come up in other panels, and I want to make sure it's said here. Infosys does have a pretty substantial internship program as well. So definitely recommend that you take some time after this tech talk to visit the website and see what that internship program is, because we do have students in the room right now who are interested in cybersecurity, computer science, data analytics, etc. So thanks, Vikas, for touching upon that for our students. Deborah, going to turn it to you right now. I was hoping that you could share a little bit more about what a typical day in the life is for you in your role, kind of walk us through some of your common responsibilities, so that way our students can really better conceptualize the everyday realities of being in that associate analyst role.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say a day in the life of this role that I'm currently in. I wake up and I have a couple of meetings with my managers. And these meetings kind of set the tone for what we're going to do, most likely for the week or for the next 2 weeks. And in these meetings, what my managers do is we kind of have like a conversation. It's more conversational. And we kind of determine, based on priority, what to do first. So like I said, I'm in the Oracle sector, and this current role is I create reports for this particular client, or for the project for this client. So determining, prioritizing which reports go first, which reports need to be developed first, that's kind of one of the things we do on those calls, and that's what I do during the week. Another thing that I do during the week is kind of revising some of the things I've done for the previous week. So it's kind of like developing, revising, developing, revising. And a lot of it is mostly based on what the client has already told us to do. So like I said, I'm more part of the implementation phase of our project. So I know Kevin had mentioned that there's a side of the project that they actually get the requirements. I'm part of the side that is actually doing what they told us to do. And really, it's kind of just doing that on a day-to-day basis and closing your items, and then moving to the next part, whatever the next part of the project is. That sounds kind of easy, but like, it takes like a full day to develop multiple reports and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of like a day-to-day, what I would do, like what I would wake up and do for this role.
And within that, what is something that you love about your job, and what is something that is very challenging?
I think one of the biggest things I love about the job is the support. I love the fact that Infosys, they don't expect you to be like an immediate genius, especially when you first start. I think that has helped me because some of the roles that I've been in at Infosys, I had really strong mentors. So if I didn't understand, I would really be forthcoming, like, I don't know what to do. And they literally would send me the resources. Like they literally would put me in a training, like, okay, go do this training, 3 days, try to get it as much as you need. And then, we'll kind of help you along the way. And I think that's one of the greatest things about Infosys is that they really do support you and they really want to see you grow. They don't just want to use your talent. They actually want to see you grow in your knowledge. And I think the most challenging part of my role, I think it's more of self-time management. Because like I said, the when you're in your project role, some of the things can seem easy, and there's a tendency personally for you to kind of say, oh, this is easy, I'll just do it later. But I think I've been challenging myself day to day to kind of have better time management skills, just to get things done in a timely fashion, so that you're not scrambling and have like a high stress situation just because of poor time management. So yeah.
Thanks for that candor, Deborah. I think some of our students right now in this remote learning environment can definitely empathize with time management and making sure that you have that on lockdown. So as you can see, students, that skill never goes away. So it's best to start developing it earlier. But thanks so much for that insight. And just to give you all just a quick time check, we're kind of rounding the end of our panel. So I will say, students, if you do have any questions that are lingering, this is really your opportunity to ask them now, so that way we have an opportunity to get them in. But I'm gonna continue forward. I have just a couple questions left. So Kevin, if you can also just give us a snapshot of your everyday responsibilities, and then with that follow-up question of best part of your job and most challenging.
Sure. So I would say everyday responsibilities consist of a lot of interaction between the developers on the projects and the business side. So my project contains really 5 applications. 4 of them are web apps, and one of them is it's a desktop and a mobile app. So those 4 that are web apps are custom software that's developed by the client. So it's interacting between the business and the software developers and also the end users. So a typical day, I could be, like one second I'm talking to a user who's having an issue using one of the web apps, and I'll provide them training or set up a session with some of the support team. Next, we might have the support team that's noticing a bug, so I'll document that, get it put in our bug tracking software, which is Jira, which is like a board. It's a software program. It's a web site where there's a board and there's points that you can create an issue and you can move them across the screen until they're complete. So I'll get those documented so the developers can start working on them. And then I might have a meeting with one of the business leaders that kind of controls the applications who want to add a feature to it. I might document that feature, communicate with the developers to make sure it's feasible, kind of coordinate a session between the two and kind of translate things, because the way that some of the business people who don't deal with software development a lot and the software developers that only deal with software development communicate, there's sort of sometimes there's a little gap in communication there. So being able to be the person who knows how to talk to both of them and kind of set up a meeting and figure out things to get things moving is good. And then in terms of favorite part of my job, I would say is the flexibility. So I've been working remote since this project started in early 2019. Before then I would go into the Infosys office. They have a really beautiful office in downtown Indianapolis in the One America Tower. So I loved working there. I would go in a few days per week, pretty much half and half, working from home and working from the office. But since COVID hit, I've had to, obviously we can't work from the office. So I've worked from home, but because of the flexibility of the role, I basically experience no impact. Our team the team that I work with is a global team. So we have some developers that are in India. They have customers that are all over the world in, I think, 150 countries. And then, some of the business contacts are in Europe, some are in North America, some are in Asia. So we were already working remote. So we were able to really lean into that when that happened, and we didn't have any disruption. And then also kind of to dovetail with what Deborah said, one of the great things about it, but it could be, I guess, personal time management. So that's something that, depending on how you approach it, can either be the most loved thing of your job or the most hated, I guess. But I think I've been pretty good, and I have a really great team that lets things develop. You might have a deadline, but as long as you're working and prioritizing things how you need, in the way that works for you and your team, you can avoid a lot of stressful situations by kind of doing the extra work before it becomes critical. That's one thing that our project has moved away from, kind of these, doing things right before they have to be done and, trying to do them a few weeks out. So we're not dealing with these deadlines every time. And then a challenging thing, I would say, kind of, I guess it sort of follows up on what Vikas was saying, is technology is always changing, and also the requirements for business or for real life, you could say, are always changing also. So figuring out, there might be a new requirement for the software program that you're doing, and at the same time you might be experiencing the technology or the language that it's written in is also, retiring. So you might have to come up with a new technological solution and working with some of those legacy code items. So really, by continuing to always learn and value yourself as a resource instead of just being an expert. Like Vika said, I think he made a great point. If Infosys hired someone who's an expert but doesn't like to learn or doesn't care about continuing to learn, even if they're the best resource or expert in a certain technology, in 5 to 10 years, that's going to be outdated anyways. So the most important thing is to value yourself and to always continue to keep learning.
Thanks, Kevin. Just a quick takeaway for our students. I think, a lot of them, in this remote learning environment have probably felt like this is something temporary that you really just have to get through. And to a certain extent, like, that's very valid. And I think it's difficult to be self-motivated in a remote setting, in a work from home setting. But as we're seeing from a lot of our panelists that represent a lot of different companies, the idea of remote work will never expire. It's something that, you students are really kind of learning earlier on. And I think from that, you're getting, well acquainted and developing the skill sets that are in alignment with that type of work. So in a way, I think it's important to really draw the positives out of an experience. And so as we're really going through this, students, you're kind of, really positioning yourselves to be prepared for potentially being in a similar situation later on. So just want to quickly take away that from Kevin. Vika's going to turn it to you. More of a day in the life in your role, explaining kind of those everyday responsibilities, and then best part and most challenging part.
Yeah, sure. Well, the day typically varies, but I would say typically, I think my Mondays are the days where I start with looking at our dashboard in terms of how we are doing. We all are driven by certain KPIs for our business. So looking at how we are doing on operations, how we are doing on new business acquisition, how are we doing on tell, and all of them are something. We start defining the week. Of course, each week is different from the previous because you start looking at what is the stuff that requires your attention, what requires priority, and then, of course, which customers, clients you are working with and dealing with. So typically, the day starts by looking at some of these KPIs or metrics, as we call them, deciding on where you need to put in most of your effort during the week, followed by a lot of emails, I would say. Emails is something which is 24/7 in some ways. I think thanks to technology, it has taken away any downtime from all of us away. So no longer, I think you can draw a very clear-cut boundary about your personal life or professional life, while you can definitely sneak away time or keep away time for yourself. I think nowadays you need to bound it out. In terms of number of hours, it can vary, and believe me, it's true for both Deborah and Kevin as well in their roles. There are times when a project is going to go live, which means, for example, you are deploying a new system. Those are the times when customer, along with companies like Infosys, right, they all would be all hands on the deck. You might end up working for, let's say, a week during a couple of months' time where you have to spend maybe 10, 12 hours continuously. In some cases, depending upon your role, it might be even more. But then there are other times where it may not be as demanding and you may have time to yourself to learn and do things. So in my role, apart from emails, of course, there are a lot of meetings which I have to participate, spend time there. I think there are days where I do interact with new joins to the organization. I spend time with my clients discussing both reviewing their new proposals, looking at how we are doing on the projects that we are delivering to them. There are meetings which are very good, where we have made a lot of progress, which definitely add to the excitement, gives you a good feel. There are times when things are not going as good. Those are the times when you're under pressure. Of course, you have to manage all the three aspects, and I call them PPT, which also is an acronym for PowerPoint, right? So it's people, process, and technology as it goes. And in the same order, I believe, is the complexity. Most difficult is to deal with people aspect. Everybody comes with their own personality, own agenda, own point of view. Processes, they are typically ingrained in the organization, part of the culture as well. So at times it's difficult to change a process. So process is the second part. The third is technology. I find it is easiest and most manageable because it is in your own purview to command. So technology can always be learned, unlearned, and relearned. Mm-hmm. Other two are the difficult pieces where you deal with. Most exciting times, I think, are the times where you are looking to creating something new, or you're applying something you learned in a different industry to a very new industry. So time of ideation, time of creativity. And another aspect which I think I really relish in my job is opportunity to deal with fresh talent which comes into the organization. Mm-hmm. It does not let me get older by the day. I think it keeps me very fresh, down to earth. I get to learn a lot from people who come in. Believe me, times are changing and changing very fast. Mm-hmm. And as I think Maya was pointing out, the way we operate in the organization, right, the way we interact with each other is changing by the day. And being remote has added a new dimension to all of our lives.
Definitely.
I don't think I enjoy it as much. I love to interact with people in person. I want to meet. I want to see them laugh, scorn, understand their body language, which at times is not viable. I think the fun time that you can have with your team, right? That's the time of bonding and actually building a team.
Yes.
So knowing their strength apart from technical strength, right, is very important. In a team, you may have different personalities. Some people who are doers, some people who are thinkers, some people who just keep the team together. And that's what actually delivers a large program where you may have hundreds of people working across different geographies trying to deliver something. So yeah, I think that's what makes my day. And I'm always looking forward to what time has in store for the next week.
Thanks, Vikas. Thanks for that insight. So, we wrapped up perfectly at 1 p.m. I think we had a really great conversation with our 3 panelists today. Students, before you sign off, I am going to launch a quick exit survey. This is an opportunity for you all to give us your feedback on today's session. Pencil really prioritizes the type of content that we deliver to you all. So we definitely love hearing what your experiences are. So that way in the future, you can attend sessions that are interesting to you. Vikas, Kevin, Deborah, thank you so much for sharing all of your experiences, all of your insight this afternoon. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for our students who were able to join us today, definitely take an opportunity to learn more about Infosys on your own time. As you heard, there's a lot of different entry points to getting involved. But not only that, I think the 3 of you really just showcase the importance of developing not only your technical skills, but your soft skills as well. And Pencil is a huge part of really helping you all students in that process. So look out for future opportunities as well. With our remaining minute, if you have any closing words, would love just a quick thank you from you 3, and students definitely thank our panelists in the chat box.
Thanks, Maya. I would want to thank you and your organization for doing this great work. And thanks to all the students who participated. Would love to hear your feedback. Anything, both positives and things we can improve on. I think it was great talking to you. Always excited to be part of it.
Thanks, Vikas.
Yeah, thanks. I think this was a great opportunity. And like I said, just if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer them after this.
Thanks, Kevin, definitely.
Thank you, Maya, for this opportunity. Thank you, all the students that came. I hope you guys are inspired. Technology really is the way to go. That's what the future is. So I'm excited that so many people are interested. And I just want to encourage you guys to take it all the way home.
Thanks, Deborah. It's a very beautiful day in New York, if you're wondering.
I'm jealous.